I went on a women's retreat. Probably the first part, latter part of April. Randy always wanted to be a missionary, and I never knew really what a missionary was because I wasn't raised in a Christian home. I called him on a Saturday night because I was going to stay till Sunday, and I said, because he'd been after me for 9.5 years to go to Vienna. He'd been there before. And I said, how would you like to go to Vienna for a 2-week vacation? I came back Sunday, and he had our air flight. He had our tickets by the time I got home. So that's where we went, and I'm going, oh, great, after 9 years, this guy's going to get off my back because I'm going to Vienna for a vacation. And it turned out totally different. We stayed with this missionary family, and we actually went and spent the night at Gutenstein.
The whole purpose of going to Gutenstein was because it was a facility that our missionary friends had been telling us that the church purchased, and it was for a ministry opportunity. They needed a place outside of the city where these groups could go and for intense study and worship and just prayer. So I really wanted to go see the facility, but what I didn't know was the condition that it was in, and they didn't tell me that they weren't able to use it at this time. So when we got ready to go and they gave us a key, they said, you guys are going to be the only ones there, and you'll be hard-pressed to find a room suitable to stay in. And I said, well, why? And he said, well, because this last winter nobody was there, and the pipes froze and burst, and it caused quite a bit of damage.
I made him and I a sandwich, and he was outside doing something. I'm sitting there, and I start decorating this. Oh boy, I do this, I do that, and all of a sudden it was just like God in my heart. I felt like God telling me, this is where I want you to go. This is where I want you to be. And I'm going, and I start crying.
When we got there, that's when JoAnne was making our little sandwich for our dinner, and I was walking through the facility looking at surveying the damage, and my heart was just, I was sick because I knew that this facility could be used. It wasn't being used, and it could be used. And I knew as I was surveying, the Lord was telling me in my heart, this is where I want you, this is where you're needed. And I was arguing with God. I said, I know, Lord, my heart is here, my heart has been here. You know that I wanted to be here, but I can't come by myself because I have a wife, and I know that if you call me, you have to call JoAnne as well. And I had no idea that God was speaking to JoAnne's heart in the dining room, and I was crying, and I came in and she was crying, and I said, what's the matter? And she said, the Lord just told me that this is where we're to come, and it was without me saying that the Lord was speaking to me. So it was a confirmation to us that the Lord was calling us specifically to this ministry center. And so we talked about it, and we said, well, we weren't going to say anything to our missionary friends or to the pastor there because we didn't want it to be that this is where we want to be. We wanted them to ask us as a confirmation, I suppose. And so while we were there, we got a call on our cell phone, and it was our missionary friend that wanted to know when we were coming back down into Vienna. And I said, well, we're leaving tomorrow. We'll be there tomorrow afternoon because our flight leaves Friday morning. Mm-hmm. So he says, okay. I said, why? And he said, well, the pastor wanted to meet with you before you left. And I said, oh, okay. And we never thought any more about it. When we got back down into Vienna, they had planned a breakfast for us, and they invited the pastor and his wife, and we had a very nice breakfast. And the pastor at that time said that he had met with the board a couple days before, and they had talked about it, and they had decided that that God was calling us, and that we were the ones that God was going to send to them, and asked us if we would come on staff. And we knew then, right then, that was a confirmation that God was calling us.
I've never been away from my family this far in my life, so that's how I know that this is what God wants me to do, because you know, and He does tell us to leave. If you what you're going to do for the Lord, you have to sacrifice, and it is a sacrifice leaving my children, my grandchildren, my great ones, but not when I think of what He wants me to do. That's what's important to me, is doing what God wants me to do.
Austria itself is about the size of Maine. There's currently about 275,000 foreigners that are flooding into Vienna, coming from all over the world. In Vienna Christian Center, their goal is to introduce them to Jesus, give them the teaching that they need so that they can go back into their communities, their countries, and spread the gospel. Right now, Vienna Christian Center is ministering to about 58 different language groups, which is absolutely amazing. They have church 7 days a week around the clock, because the facility isn't big enough for everyone to have church on Sundays. But they really need this ministry center where they can seek God, and where God can minister to them, where they're away from everything going on in the city. They're not, I guess, distracted, where they won't be distracted, and they can really focus on what God's telling them and teaching them. What VCC is wanting is for someone to come and help restore, repair, and manage the facility so that it can support itself. According to statistics, Austria, there are only 0.5% evangelical Christians in Austria. That's half of 1% that claim to know Jesus or to be evangelical Christians. There are churches everywhere, great, huge churches everywhere in Austria, and in Europe, but basically they're empty. And I think it's probably because Austrians, or even most Europeans, are disillusioned with church and with God. Church hasn't given them, I guess, what they're looking for. They just need someone, I guess, to be examples, to show them God's love. They need to witness what God's love really is. That's what we hope to accomplish. Right now, they have a huge financial debt, and they're spending finances on a building that they're unable to use full time. And so it would really be helpful to the church if someone was there that could manage it and get it up and running, and support itself, relieving the church of that huge burden. And that's what we feel like that God is calling us to do.
We have to show them our love. We have to show that with everybody. I love people. I don't care who they are, what they are. I just want to share with them what God has done for me. My heart's for young women that think that they're not worthy because of their past. And for me, I open my heart up to just, that's not true. That is not true, because things I've done in my past, God has forgiven me. It's such a tool of Satan to tell women that they can't be this, they can't be that because of their lifestyle, and God will never forgive me. That is so not true. He's ready to forgive you in all His mercy and His grace, and that's what my heart is to tell young women that your past doesn't matter. God's got a future for you.